Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Getting In, a College Coach Conversation. Super happy to be back with you all after hosting last week. I will give my regular plea to review us on Apple Podcasts. The more reviews we get, the easier it is for others to find us, and we'd like to reach as many people as we can. So please drop us a review if you have a chance. We're going to cover a lot of ground today, including financial questions you can ask during college visits, and also tips for using the summer, i.e. right now, to explore and develop interests alongside whatever else a student might be doing this summer. So some good stuff coming there. But before we get to all of that, I'd like to talk about something else that I really encourage students to use summertime for, and that is doing college visits. And joining me for that is my colleague, Nial Rele, who is a former admissions officer at Middlebury, at Colorado College, and at Lewis and Clark colleges. So he's got a lot of insights into college visits. Hi, Nial.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All right. So, one thing that I definitely get from families is they are concerned about visiting colleges during the summer because, in their opinion, it's nothing's happening and it's not the same. But at the same time, to me, summer is a really brilliant time to visit colleges. And so I would love to get your thoughts on why. Why is now a good time to do that?
That's a great question. A lot of great reasons why the summer might not just be yet another time to visit, but actually a fantastic time to visit
Yes.
colleges. First of all, there will absolutely still be students on campus, right? The vast majority of colleges will offer some sort of summer programming, and the admissions offices are very much still open for business. And you still will quite likely have an opportunity to do a lot of the things that you would in terms of a visit experience if you were visiting during the semester as well. That could be sitting in on a class during the summer, visiting a dorm room during the summer, perhaps even doing an interview within the admissions office or with the student. So lots of those opportunities still absolutely do exist. And in some ways, the benefit of the summer over the regular semesters is that you will have a little bit more flexibility, particularly if you're traveling to do some visits. You will have more time on your hand, technically, and as a result, you might be able to do more visits as well. So those are some of the reasons, right? And I'll speak from my own experience of what might be really interesting that happens on college campuses over the summer that you might get a glimpse into that if you were visiting during the semester might be a little bit harder to see as well. For instance, a lot of summer research might happen between students and faculty over the summer. So potentially, if that's a topic that you're interested to learn more about, you could get really great access to students who are doing research over the summer and perhaps have a little bit more time to give you as a student that's visiting, as a prospective student, to learn about what they're doing. And the same might go for faculty as well. When I was an undergraduate and I attended Middlebury College, during the summer, they also had these amazing language schools where students from Middlebury and elsewhere would attend for 8 or 9 weeks and learn a new language, a year's worth of that. So things like that might be happening. There might be interesting community engagement projects happening. So for all those reasons, you might get a glimpse into the sort of the plus, right, of the experience of being on a college campus that you would have access to if you were a student at that campus, but you might not be able to see if you were visiting during the regular semesters as well.
Right. And I do love the point about just having a little bit more time and space to explore because you aren't stressed about that AP US history test that you have when you get back to high school, right? And because you're not going to school in that moment. And if you have traveled, like you said, you can kind of explore the campus a little bit more, spend a little bit more time. And I think it's such a good point that colleges are not like high schools. High schools are done during the summer. There's typically almost nothing, if anything, going on. Teachers are on vacation. Even administrators are often in and out of the building, but not really around very much. Whereas on a college campus, most of those people are working over the summer. And while certainly some may go elsewhere to do that work, many of them stay on campus. And speaking again from personal experience, and Nial, I love your personal experience. And I actually spent a summer in Ithaca when I was in college, and it was such an incredible experience to kind of see the college with certainly lots of students, but a lot fewer students. And I don't know, there was just a real sense of the community that was there, even without all of it felt the same, but just a little bit more expansive, I guess, for lack of a better term. And so that is why I agree that I just think summer's a great time, not just because you're not in school, but because there's sometimes there's even more to see a little bit during the summer.
And I'll say that my number one piece of advice to first-year students, no matter where they're going to college, is to spend at least one summer at your institution, right? Of course, it's a related topic because there can be so many fun ways to meet new people over the summer. When I worked in admissions, we always had the most gregarious, excited students who wanted to work in our office for that summer, give tours. You're also going to be interacting with those sorts of students who work in the admissions office, right? So there's often a wonderful energy on campuses over the summer. And to add to a point Beth you made, right, in terms of scheduling as well, during the school semester, particularly when you're a junior or senior and your schedule's really full, it can be hard to fit in a trip to do visits, right? And of course, when you have a break during your semester, many other students will as well. So a lot of these visit experiences that happen during the semesters, it's sometimes hard to find a room on an admissions office calendar, or you might visit and you might be visiting alongside literally hundreds of other people. But in the summer, that pressure is a little bit less, right? Plus, you have the opportunity of not just fitting in visits during the weekend or things like that. Oftentimes during the semester, colleges might not even offer visit experiences during the weekend, but of course during the summer, that's less of a restriction too.
Right, exactly. And I mean, good point, like Good Friday. I don't know about you guys, but Good Friday on Penn's campus was just mayhem because you're welcoming all of the juniors who are going to be seniors, a bunch of accepted students. I mean, probably one of the worst days to visit. Fun, I guess, because there's so many people, but if you want any of that personalized experience, like you were mentioning, you're not going to get it on times like that where the whole world has the same idea that you do, which is let's go visit. So another great reason why summers are really a good time. All right, so we've established, hopefully, that this is a really good time to visit. How do you make the most of that visit? What are the things that you recommend students and parents do while they're on those campuses?
First off, I'll strongly recommend doing some pre-work, right? There's a ton of really great information available online nowadays, particularly post the pandemic. Universities has put a lot of attention toward having a really robust online profile, so you can get a good sense of them before visiting or not without even having to visit. But if you're able to show up on a campus, having a really good sense of, the questions that you want to ask, what you really want to wrap your head around while you're on that campus, beyond the basic stuff, you're going to be able to take advantage of getting answers to those sorts of questions. So are there aspects about the program that you're really interested in that you want to learn more about in particular? Is there a particular destination on the campus that you really want to see? Do you want to check out the ice rink? Do you want to go to a science lab and take a look at that, right? Being able to do that more granular work during a visit can really add to your understanding and knowledge of the community. So do some of that pre-work. Strongly recommend doing that. Also, as you know, some of the benefits of the flexibility that not just you, but also students and faculty who are on these college campuses have during the summer is having a little bit more time. So potentially, you'll be able to connect with a student who has similar interests to you. You might be able to connect with a faculty member who is in a department that you're interested in. So if you're able to, and the admissions office can be a partner in this work, if you're able to try to make a connection with at least a student, right? And if possible, if appropriate, with a faculty member as well as you visit. And ask those questions that go beyond the basics to help you get a better sense of the college community. On the precautionary side, yes, you have more time, but also take advantage of that time in spending a good amount of time on a college campus. So don't try to book too many visits in one particular day in the city you might be visiting, right?
Yeah.
Give it the time because you really want to be able to breathe in the community. You really want to be able to get a strong feel of the campus as well. And not just the campus, but also the surrounding area potentially, right? Because that'll be where you live, right? So take all that in and take really great notes, right? So
Yes.
even if you are a junior, right, or rising senior, that's summer before senior year, it'll still be many a month before you're going to sit and send your applications in. So take really great notes. I can tell you from so many students that I've worked with that it all can kind of meld together, and going back to your notes in whatever format you keep them can be really helpful for you down the line, I promise. And what else comes to mind? Potentially colleges might offer interviews for seniors, for rising seniors. So check out kind of what is the breadth of the experience on those campuses that you could have. So you're making sure that you're taking advantage of everything that is available to you at that time.
Yeah. And when you're taking notes, take pictures.
Yeah.
I've yet to see a student without one of these. Whether it's an iPhone or an Android, you've got a smartphone, it takes pictures. Even if you have a flip phone, it takes pictures. So take pictures because like you say, it all bleeds together. And I can't tell you how many students I've had come back to me after they do these visits and they're like, oh, I can't remember. Was it this school that had this school program or was it this school? And as a parent, if you're spending the money to go on these visits, that is a bad thing to have happen at the end, right? Like, oh, I can't remember. Certainly you can go and look it up, but if you take good notes and you take pictures as you're going, it's really going to be helpful when it comes time to, kind of collect your thoughts and say, what did I really like? What was I kind of meh about? And usually you remember what you really disliked, and you often remember what struck you the most, but it's a lot of times decisions are going to lay in that in-between area. And so you want to make sure that you're getting your thoughts down accordingly. So I'm going to second the taking notes piece and add the taking some photos and maybe even video to that as well.
Video. And on that note, right, it can really be um, solidifying in a lot of different ways, right? If you were to have a conversation with perhaps the people that went on the tour with you, maybe your folks, right? Maybe your siblings, maybe you're traveling with a friend, to have a conversation and ask some of those questions out loud, right? Really be able to articulate it. What did you like? What were you surprised by? What did you not like as much, right? And having that conversation with someone can really aid your process of reflection and understanding about your fit for an institution, because some of these people assumedly would know you really well as
Right.
well.
Right. Any advice in the time that we have left? People may be listening and saying, this all sounds really great. How do I go about doing all of those things? So any advice and tips that you have for actually not just scheduling the visits, but then maybe adding some of these more unique things where maybe you meet with a student or you meet with a faculty member or a department head or something like that?
Mhm. Reach out to the admissions office at the institution. Of course, you want to absorb all of that's already been put online on their admissions office visit page in particular, right? So you don't need to ask questions that you haven't answered to perhaps online
Yes.
already. Certainly register, right? Do the formal registration thing on the website when that's an option, which is most often. A lot of students that I speak with have technically visited a campus, but they said, we didn't even go to the admissions office. We just walked around. And
Right.
sure, there's a lot to gain in that sense as well, but it can be really valuable to have the formal experience as presented, as holistic as possible, right? As presented by the admissions office. And often there would be the people that you speak with about, okay, if I have this sort of an interest, do you have a student that you might be able to introduce me to, or a faculty member, or perhaps if you want to take it into your own hands, you could even go to the department specific website, check out who the professors are within the department, and get a sense of their bio. And you might also be able to reach out to them directly. So that's part in my sense of it. That's part of the pre-work that you could do before visiting.
Right.
But absolutely, you should register and have that be sort of a formal experience.
Right, because at the schools where they care if you visit, so they're tracking demonstrated interest, if all you do is go on campus and walk around, you're not going to get credit. So that's a super important component of it. Exactly. And I also like the mention of that's pre-work. You can't really show up on campus and say, oh, I wonder if this chemistry professor is here,
Mhm.
and stop by their office and hope to find them there. This is the kind of thing where in a perfect world, you would do that work in advance and you would know, and either know they weren't going to be on campus when you were there and maybe adjust your visit accordingly if that was super important to you, or make an appointment with them so that they would be there when you arrived.
Right. And I will
Yeah.
say sort of a little bit more macro, right? As you're thinking about visits over the summer, say if you live in Portland, Oregon, and decide to go to the Bay Area because you're really excited about Stanford and you want to visit Stanford, what are other schools that perhaps also might be a good fit? Maybe you don't know as much about them, or maybe it's not a name that you've heard of from when you were a little kid, right? Stanford would be perhaps
Right.
that you might also add to that list, that you're not going too much out of your way, but you are taking the advantage of the fact that you're already traveling to check out a school that might be close to that one. So it's hard to cover the whole country over the summer, right? If you are doing a national search, but it is an opportunity to sort of broaden your horizons a little bit, right? If you're visiting a new place, to be inclusive of the schools that perhaps you hadn't thought of initially, but sometimes students are really surprised how much they like a school that they maybe stumbled
Right.
into, right? For whatever reason.
Right, exactly. If you're going to make the trip all the way to Vermont to see Middlebury, there's no harm in going to see St. Mike's and then maybe also going over and seeing University of Vermont. I
Mhm.
actually see connections between all three schools that if you like one, you might find something that you like in the other. So I love that advice, and it is a good way to maximize your travel time and your travel dollars, which are
Absolutely.
not insignificant.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts about summer visits before we wrap up?
Yeah, and look, we're painting with fairly broad strokes here as well, right? That we're saying that for the most part, the summer visit experience can be really great. But if you have a really particular objective, for instance, if you say, I really want to visit and check out this sort of class, right? Or I
Mhm.
really want to make sure that I see a dorm room or this and that. It might not always be available. So do that research. We certainly don't want you to discount the opportunity of visiting over the summer, but go into the weeds a little bit. Make sure that that is an experience that works for you and your own objectives of understanding a certain place. But hopefully this does broaden your horizons to say you actually do have a plenty of time to be able to visit a lot of places. Know that you don't have to visit a campus before applying, certainly, right? Many a student, particularly those that are applying to schools that are far away, if you're able to visit, that's fantastic. But as I said a little earlier, there is a ton of great information available online for you to feel confident enough to send an application in, even if you were not to visit, and that's okay.
Right, right, exactly. But do take advantage of what's online if you aren't able to make it to
Mhm.
campus. And my last piece of advice on this front is also, if you are going to commit to a school, you're going to apply early decision, which means if they admit you, you're saying, I'm going to come. It might make sense if it's possible. And again, this is another big added expense, and so certainly not essential. But if possible, you might want to go back in the fall just to make sure that this truly is the place you want to be, and you could see it with all of the students on campus and just confirm your gut that yes, early decision at this school is the right play for me. So
Absolutely.
Niall, thank you so much for joining today. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
All right, well, don't go away, because when we come back, we're going to be talking about all of the different financial questions that you can and should be asking during these visits that you're going to be making soon. So don't go away.